They escaped from a maximum security prison, outsmarted the authorities, and disappeared into America. For weeks, millions watched the news wondering the same terrifying question: where would the Texas 7 strike next?
December 24th, 2000. While most Americans were preparing for Christmas celebrations, 7 inmates inside a maximum security prison in Texas were preparing for something entirely different. For months, they had studied the prison's routines, memorized guard schedules, and searched for weaknesses in the system.
They knew that one mistake could ruin everything. But they also knew that if their plan worked, they would become the most wanted men in America. The prison was unusually calm that afternoon. Many employees were focused on holiday preparations, and the atmosphere felt more relaxed than usual. The 7 inmates saw their opportunity.
Moving carefully and according to their plan, they began taking control of key areas inside the prison. One by one, guards and civilian employees were overpowered, restrained, and locked away. The operation unfolded with shocking speed. Within a short time, the inmates had gained access to equipment, uniforms, and areas that should have been impossible for prisoners to reach.
They disabled communication systems and created confusion among prison staff. By the time authorities realized what was happening, it was already too late. The 7 men walked out of the prison and disappeared. When the escape was discovered, alarms sounded across Texas.
Law enforcement agencies immediately launched a massive search operation. News stations interrupted their regular programming to report the unbelievable story. Americans watched television in disbelief. 7 dangerous criminals had escaped from one of the state's most secure prisons. The fugitives quickly became known as the Texas 7.
As the days passed, investigators struggled to find them. The group moved constantly, staying one step ahead of authorities. They used stolen vehicles, false identities, and careful planning to avoid detection. Every time police thought they had found a lead, the fugitives were already gone. The public grew increasingly nervous. Every news report reminded people that 7 convicted criminals were somewhere out there, hiding in plain sight. Tips flooded police departments. Sightings were reported across multiple states. Some turned out to be false alarms. Others led nowhere. Meanwhile, the fugitives needed money. Life on the run was expensive. They needed food, transportation, shelter, and supplies. Eventually, they decided to commit another crime. Just days after their escape, they targeted a sporting goods store. Their goal was simple: steal money and weapons. The robbery initially appeared successful. They entered the store, took control of the situation, and gathered what they wanted. But then, something happened that changed everything. A police officer responded to the scene. The officer had no idea he was walking into a confrontation with some of the most wanted fugitives in America. He was simply answering a call and doing his job. What followed was a tragedy. The encounter quickly turned violent. The officer was attacked and critically wounded. Despite efforts to save him, he later died from his injuries. The nation reacted with outrage. What had started as a dramatic prison escape had now become a murder investigation. Law enforcement agencies intensified their efforts. The fugitives were no longer just escapees. They were now considered extremely dangerous and a threat to everyone around them. The FBI joined the manhunt in full force. Across the country, wanted posters appeared on television screens, newspapers, and public bulletin boards. The faces of the Texas 7 became instantly recognizable.
Millions of Americans knew exactly who authorities were searching for. Weeks passed. The pressure on the fugitives increased every day.
Living as fugitives was far more difficult than they had imagined. They could trust almost no one. Every stranger might recognize them. Every police car could signal the end. Eventually, investigators received a promising lead. Someone watching television believed they had spotted members of the group in a small town in Colorado. The information was passed to authorities. Agents quietly moved into the area. Surveillance teams observed a trailer park where several suspicious individuals appeared to be living under false identities. The more investigators watched, the more convinced they became. They had finally found the Texas 7. Soon, law enforcement officers surrounded the location. News crews gathered nearby. Helicopters circled overhead. Across America, people watched live coverage as the dramatic standoff unfolded. Inside the trailer park, the fugitives realized their escape was over. There was no easy way out. Officers called for them to surrender peacefully. Negotiations continued for hours. Finally, one by one, members of the group began surrendering. Most accepted that their freedom had come to an end. One member, however, chose a different path and took his own life before officers could arrest him. The remaining fugitives were taken into custody and eventually faced justice for their crimes. Years later, the Texas 7 case would still be remembered as one of the most dramatic fugitive stories in American history, a chilling reminder that no matter how far someone runs, justice eventually catches up.